Welcome to Catching Up With on Down to Earth Conversations, where we hear updates from former podcast guests about things they've been up to since we talked. Kia ora whānau. It's so good to have you here for this new little side project, Catching Up With, here on Down to Earth Conversations. These are short episodes with former Down to Earth Conversations guests about new and interesting things that they've been up to since I last talked to them. I'm Andy Dixon, and today we are catching up with Te Karere Whitiao Scarborough. Te Karere featured way back on episode 10, and at that stage he was transitioning out of working at the parenting place, which interestingly he was hired for his role there by recent Down to Earth Conversations guest Bruce Pilbrow. Te Karere joins me on Catching Up With to talk about an exciting new educational pathway in Aotearoa, Te Wānanga Ihorangi, which Te Karere is involved in shaping as they get ready to take their first students in 2024. It's an exciting new initiative that involves te reo Māori learning, combined with theological learning, and a bunch of other things. I'll let Te Karere tell you all about it. This is episode 1 of Catching Up With. Here's Te Karere Whitiao Scarborough. No mai, hoki mai, welcome back to the podcast, to episode 10 guest Te Karere Whitiao Scarborough.
Kia ora, brother. Nice to see you and that and all that beard goodness that you got going on there.
Yeah, it's been a few years now. So we last talked on the podcast back in 2020, actually. It was a while ago now,
Wow.
when the world was in lockdown and you were repping the parenting place, being a parenting expert, telling us how to get through lockdown with our kids. So that was pretty cool. We talked quite a bit on that episode about your journey into learning te reo Māori, your journey into te ao Māori, the world of Māori, and sort of recovering that for yourself and your whānau. Do you want to share just a little bit of where's that journey taken you since then? You'd started the study and things like that. What's that looked like over the last couple of years as you've dived deeper into that?
Yeah. Maybe first things first to know about me is I'm a serial monogamist. So I've been married to my wife, the same wife, and in the same way I was married to the parenting place for 15 years. And I was coming to the end of that journey at the time that we'd caught up. So as a serial monogamist, as one partner was disappearing, I was looking for another partner, and that's ended up being te reo Māori in the church.
Yeah. Nice.
In 2020, I'd started the second year of what has turned into a 5-year study journey, and that has been jumping in between te reo Māori and theology. So I've studied at Otago, done a couple of years of theology there, some theology up here at St. John's, and I've also studied at Te Wānanga Aotearoa, heaps of different kura reo, and a place called Te Wānanga Takiura, which is a Māori language immersion learning context here in Tāmaki. So after all of this time of jumping in between learning context, I just started asking different questions, which is, why can't I study theology in te reo Māori? ?
Yeah.
And in a lot of the immersion contexts, why can't I learn more about ngā puropiti Māori, the Māori faith sects, and the history of missionaries in a way which is kind of really diverse, but also in a way which is from people who hold those stories themselves. And so, I mean, it wasn't, a brainwave. It was more a question of these two worlds seem to exist separate from one another in the formal learning institutions that I was a part of. They are together in many marae and many hahi and many kind of wairua spaces within Aotearoa, but in the formal learning context, they were apart. And so at the beginning of 2022, which is just last year, we smushed together a whole bunch of those worlds, and we created a learning context which, was pretty transformational for me, actually, as a pilot project. So imagine smushing together like level 6 te reo Māori, really high quality teaching of the language, tikanga, customs, ngā whakaaro nehe, Māori proverbs, all of that stuff, which exists in lots of different contexts, with Theology 101, like a bit of a home group vibe, where it's kind of you're bringing a part of your personal story and faith story, and then kind of a whole bunch of kapahaka, and you just smush them all together. And that's the pilot program that we created. Something happened in that year in the pilot program that, was pretty deep for me and a whole bunch of other people in that context. And that was the idea that we weren't having to sit these two worlds opposed from one another in a formal learning context, but they were being brought together in a way where we'd do simple things like study or research into the whakapapa of our whakapono. So what are the different histories of faith within our bloodlines, but like really focusing in on the different conversations that happened and the different places that that the gospel went and the different reactions of our ancestors to that. Anyways, to cut a long story short, as we were doing the pilot project, and there were 15 of us studying on this pilot project, I started talking to other people about what we were doing, and they were like, "What? You've got that teacher? And hey, you're learning theology in Te Reo Māori? And what do you mean you went to that place and their doors were open to you?" And so what I realized is within many, not all contexts, but many contexts, we were doing something pretty cool, something that was pretty exciting. And at the start of 22, as we were launching this thing, I think, I whakatō mai e te atua, a seed was planted around doing something maybe on a slightly larger scale and a bit more intentional. So we've got this pilot program happening, and alongside that, you've got this kind of other bigger dream that me and a whole bunch of my friends were thinking about, praying about, and ruminating on. And what can I say is that, nā te atua tēnei mea I waihanga, God can take a really long time to move really quickly. And by the end of 2022, we were finishing the pilot program, and at the same time we'd secured seed funding, the right staff, the right support by lots of different community contexts, to build a Wānanga proper, an actual learning institute that has a name now. It's called Te Wānanga Ihorangi. And throughout this entire year, 2023, we've been busy getting that off the ground. And so there's myself and another wahine Māori, kei runga noa ia, someone from Te Upukorehe, Te Whakatōhea, a language exponent, a ringatu practitioner. Her name is Anameka Painga. Me and her are the co-principals of this new waka, this new wānanga that we are opening. We've partnered with Te Wānanga Amorangi, Laidlaw College, and we have turned what used to be an organisation called Wati into Te Wānanga Ihorangi, partnered with the Theological Institute. We've just had our 2 programs, a diploma in Te Reo Māori Full Immersion Level 5 and Level 6, approved by NZQA. We're going through the process of getting TEC to approve student loans and all of that stuff. We're about to start renovations on our new whare next month. And in February, on February the 12th, we're going to open our new school. And next year, we're going to have, anywhere up to 60 students come in and start learning these 2 diplomas that are Te Reo Māori diplomas within a faith context, ko tōna tuāpapa, ko te whakapono, where it's a space where faith is encouraged, and it is the foundation of what we do as we teach Te Reo Māori to a really high level, and in a way where ko ēnei marau ngā ringaringa o te atua. Our curriculum is a language trauma-informed pedagogy that'll demonstrate what reclamation can look like, hopefully within a context where we don't just continue to press the pain buttons of all of our whānau who are dealing with intergenerational trauma and the effects of, the empire, I suppose. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, brother.
Well, that's beautiful. Like you say, I know heaps of people who are Christian or, exploring faith, exploring theology, who are also learning Te Reo Māori, who are also looking at our history and things that they didn't know about. But like you say, they're not doing that in the one place. They're doing that in the different compartmentalized bits. And actually, I hadn't even really thought before, but like in those bits, a lot of the story is still being told from the Pākehā perspective, whereas what you're talking about is hearing from the communities who actually hold those stories for themselves,
Yeah.
which is quite different. It's not quite different for Māori. It's quite different for institutions. So great to hear that you're doing that, which is really cool. What's the name meaning?
Te Wānanga Ihorangi. So iho is another word for like directional, so down in between. It's around the relationships or connections between different things. And rangi represents heavenly bodies. Te ao wairua, your kingdom come, your will be done. E rā momo kōrero. And so for us, Te Wānanga Ihorangi, one of the interpretations is that we are receiving these taonga tuku iho, these gifts handed down from our ancestors, which is te reo Māori and our customs, as well as for a lot of us, this faith that was transformational for lots of our ancestors and has been handed down 6-7 generations in the way that we understand it now too. So the idea is that we are being handed down these two gifts, and it is our job to be caretakers of them. Another kind of relationship is ihorangi between the land and the sky, inside, outside. It's the idea that the ihorangaranga, that the vibrations and the interconnected nature, you can think Colossians, of our spirituality is the thing that holds the whole world together. And so that's another interpretation. Probably the most blunt way of saying it is like the school of divinity, with the Māori assumption that in many ways, the divine does exist within and through all things if our eyes are able to allow us to see that, or our senses allow us to vibe with that and to sense that.
Yeah, beautiful. This is already had its kind of soft launch. You've put it out there saying, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. Actually, I saw a post on Facebook about it saying that it was supposed to be quite a small thing, and then all the aunties heard about it and asked for invites, and then it turned into a much bigger thing, which is cool. It's cool that people are excited about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, our communities have been so supportive. I mean, a part of the NZQA application process is to formalise a lot of the stuff that you talk about at the marae.
Yeah.
And so we, through that process, had interviews with 19 different stakeholders, people from all over. We've got government and nannies and koros and representatives of some of the major Māori churches. And the overwhelming feedback from those communities was, why has it taken so long? Why has it taken so long to formalise a learning institute where this is the main focus and the main priority? The other interesting thing was there are lots of informal contexts where lots of different denominations will get together and hang out, and that's cool. But in terms of like a formal learning institute where te reo Māori is the main focus, like a tono out to all of those different peoples or communities of faith as well, a lot of people have said, this is something that we've looked for, almost neutral ground where we can come together and learn. And a good example of the type of stuff that we're going to be doing is we're looking at next year, the end of next year, holding a symposium or a wānanga where everyone presents, some of their ideas around te reo Māori and its relationship to faith. So imagine a mix of a wānanga reo and a theology symposium, and it'll all be done in te reo Māori. So once again, it's not groundbreaking in terms of this is happening all over the place, but it's the formalization of this as a context, putting a stake in the ground, be like, this is us. We're really excited around the opportunities that might flow. And people have come out of the woodwork, and, opportunities have really just... Well, nā te atua tēnei ara I hanga. We've just started a project with Bible Society, which is the Māori audio Bible. Oh. And so in relationship with the Bible Society, we are recording and mastering and going to distribute an audio version of Te Paipira Tapu. We're an oral people before we were ever a written people. Yeah. So that type of resource... we've got the expertise, we've got a bit of funding to help make that happen. And so it's this kind of collation or this grouping of skills in a single place. And I think that nexus point is what our communities are really excited about, a place to kind of direct some of that energy and get some of this cool mahi done.
Awesome. Well, you started off by saying that you'd been married to the parenting place for 15 years. So thinking about this journey, in another 10, 15 years, what are your hopes for Te Wānanga Ihorangi?
Yeah, I mean, my single aspiration is to create a place where people can come and learn Te Reo Māori, where their faith can be strengthened, if that's their buzz, where we can produce some of the most excellent Te Reo Māori speakers, and we can continue to revitalise the language as an act of our worship, as an act of our love for communities and our, amātou mahi mō te atua, our work for God. That's the why stuff going on there. In terms of the stats, in 2021, although 20% of Māori, people who whakapapa Māori, could hold our conversation in Te Reo Māori, only 7.9% of the general population had a higher level of Te Reo Māori where they could write or read in Te Reo Māori. For me, I want to increase that 7.9%. I want us to be a place that produces confident, highly competent language exponents that are able to serve their communities and revitalise our language and our customs. Maybe one of the differences and one of the things that we are really trying to zero in on is something that we're calling a language trauma-informed approach. While lots of contexts intuitively love people towards language acquisition, we want to formalize what that looks like, and we want to experiment around what that looks like. So rather than going wide and having like 1,000 students doing level 1 and 2, we are going really narrow but deep, really, really deep. And so we're going to have small class sizes. We're going to have particular expertise on board that is going to be able to take the 100 students that we're going to have by 2026 and take them on a journey that not many other contexts are able to do so. And I think that's my big dream, is that we are able to not scare people, not frighten people, but love people towards excellence and create champions for our communities.
Awesome. Ngā mihi nui e hoa. Thank you so much for coming back and chatting with us, and for sharing your beautiful mahi, your beautiful journey with us. And thank you for what you continue to do to bring a bit of heaven down to earth.
Nā, ka pai, no mātou te whiwhi. Kia kaha koutou mā ki tēnei māhuru Māori, ki te kōrero Māori, ki te whakaputa ēnei taonga tuku iho. Aha koa ngā he, ngā hapa i au e kōrero ana, me ngana ki te whakanui tēnei taonga, kia tohainga e mātou tēnei taonga ki te awhānui. Kia ora everyone.
E tō mātou matua i te rangi, kia tapu tō ingoa, kia tau mai tō rangatiratanga, kia mea te tau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua, kia rite anō ki tō te rangi. Homai kia mātou ai nei, he taro mā mātou mō tēnei rā. Mura o mātou hara, me mātou hoki e muru nei i o te hunga, e hara ana kia mātou. Aua hoki mātou e kawea, kia whakawaia, engari whakaorangi a mātou i te kino. Amen.